Alright, what's going on, everybody? What is going on? Welcome to this special Saturday live stream. It was unexpected. I was not expecting to go live today, but here we are, going live. I'm gonna wait for a couple more people to get in here. So far, I only see one person in the chat, and that is Mickey Bricks. Shout out to you, Mickey Bricks, for being the first person here in the chat. I'm gonna wait for a couple more people to come on in, and then we will go ahead and get started. Let me see where else I can share this out at. What's going on, Joseph Washington? Let's see, who else do we have in here? See DeAndre Mosley, Stanley Kendall, what's going on? Salute to you all. Hopefully I can get some more people to come in, because I didn't know whether or not I was going to do the review for this movie today or wait to do it, but everybody kept asking me, am I going to review this movie? I was always going to do it. It was just a matter of when. What's going on? Letitia, Solo Dolo, Vulcan, 2054, Patience is a Virtue, 007 Spidey 2. What's going on? What's going on? Just waiting for some more people to get in here, because I don't want anybody to really miss anything. I'll probably get started technically at 5:10. Elder Green said you thought I was frozen. Oh no, I wasn't frozen. I was looking at my phone. Let's see, Janesta, what's going on? What's going on, Ashton? And make sure, if you have not done so already, to go and hit that like button. Hit the like button on the stream. Y'all know I never really ever do live stream for a movie review. I think I only did that for one other movie. But due to circumstances, this is what it's come to. I was just trying to decide, should I make this a pre-recorded? But no, I said I wanted to stick to the format that I'm making this a live stream channel. So that's why I'm doing this in the form of a live stream. Hopefully I get the same amount of people that was in here yesterday for the stream I did yesterday today as well. But if not, it is what it is. The show must go on. What's going on, Jordan? And also, shout out to everybody who hit the subscribe button yesterday for this channel. When I opened the channel back up for the first time in over a year, I had 989 subscribers. Today, it's at 1,250 and counting. So it has grown. And not only that, but I looked at the subscriber count for my main channel, and that has gone up as well. That is now, yesterday when I wasn't able to upload on it for the week, it was at 34 6 something, and right now it's at 34,700 plus. So people are still subscribing over there, and I noticed that a lot of people are still commenting on the last video I uploaded over there, which was the one about the guy running for governor who said that they should abolish Black History Month. Like, people have been going in about that particular subject matter. What's going on, Capital's Crew? He said, did you like or dislike the movie? I haven't gotten into it yet. You'll find out when I get into the review if I liked it or not. Let's see. Just waiting for a couple more people to stroll on in here. I put it out there. I sent the people in the community app that I have, that I am going live, and that I am currently live right now. And shout out to all the people that are still coming over to the community app. Again, if you have not joined the community app, I highly advise that you do. LJ Brain said, was my last channel shadow ban? No, it's, well, I know my channel goes through a shadow ban, which seems to be quarterly. But I actually got a strike on that channel yesterday. I'm not gonna, if you want to know why I got the strike on the other channel, then go watch the video that I did, well, the live stream that I did yesterday, and I go into detail about it, because I'm not about to explain it again. That'll be my one and only explanation for that. So if you want to know why I'm live streaming on this channel, go watch the live stream that I did yesterday, and that'll explain to you why I'm on this channel for putting up content on this channel for the week. But don't worry, I'll be back on the main channel on next Friday. Well, Friday now. What is that, the 19th? Because that's when it gets lifted. And I'll be able to upload again over there. What's going on, PD Chicago B1? What's going on, Nightfall Drop? Because if my main channel wasn't in the situation that it's in right now, this video would have came, but it would have been in the form of a pre-recorded video. It probably would have went up today, but it just would have been pre-recorded. It wouldn't have been a live stream like I'm doing right now. Give it about 4 more minutes, and then I'm going to go ahead and get into it. No matter if I have 40 people or 20 people, I'm going to still say what I have to say. If people miss it, then they can't say I didn't put it out there, because I said I was going to do this live stream hours ago. Peace to you, Tatiana. Was Hattie Campbell. Angie, you're not late. I didn't get started yet. I haven't said one thing about the movie just yet. So you're on time. What's going on, Nika Nostalgia? Good afternoon, Caressa. LJ says Susan's making some fake support for black content creators. I'm not going to get into all that. I've called her out on several videos in the past. I already know how they get down. It is what it is. And right now I'm currently at 88 people on the community app. I'm very proud of that. Let me see if I can put that number up here. So if people have not subscribed to it, that they can. Hope people can see it because it's in red. But in case y'all have not, the number is 301-747-0390 to get notifications for my videos whenever I upload a new content. Just text that number and you'll automatically be added. It'd be so funny when people be texting that number and they say, can I have the notifications, please? Not realizing that when they do that, when they text the number the first time, it automatically adds them in. They don't have to respond back and say, can I have the notifications? You're going to get them. But, you know. See, 2 more minutes. KM said, Is Black Junction still up? It might be. Darius Haley says something about that movie irks me. It's like they just want to make black folks not support each other. What movie? You talking about this movie? If you're talking about this movie, if anything, it's exposed something that many in the black community have known about for a long time and still do to this day. But I'm gonna get into that like when I get into review. If this is the movie you're talking about, Darius. He said, "Did I have? I didn't go to the theater to watch this. I watched this at home. I watched this movie in the comfort of my own home. Even though I could have went to the theater and watched it because it's a theater that's about 20 minutes from me that's open that is playing it. But I didn't go to a theater and watch it. I saw it at home. All right, it is currently 5:10, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. I'm gonna go ahead and get started. What's going on, Joy? So, yes, I bit the bullet. Those of you who follow me on Twitter knows when I said why I said why I bit the bullet. Many of you probably realized that I didn't want to originally watch this movie because of the actor who was playing Fred Hampton and some comments he made about Black Americans or FBA, AOS, however you want to put it out there. Shortly before this movie was set to come out last year, but due to the pandemic, they had to end up pushing it back, and they released it this year on in theaters and on HBO Max simultaneously. That was what was keeping me from actually giving full blown support to this movie as much as I wanted to, considering who the story was about was with Fred Hampton. When I first heard that they were doing a story about Fred Hampton, I said, "Oh, snap! This is going to be interesting if it's done right." Because they like to uh, trivialize a lot of our stories. So they like doing stuff like that, and they don't like telling the entire story the way as it should be. But in this case, I would say that the movie was actually pretty decent. It was pretty good. It actually exceeded my expectations. Actually, by the way, if you have not seen the movie and you do not want to be spoiled, I would highly suggest that you click off of the stream and then come back after you've watched it. Now, of course, if you haven't seen it and you don't mind being spoiled, you can stay. And of course, if you've already seen it, then you're definitely staying. But I'm leaving that entirely up to you. There will be spoilers, some major spoilers at that. Like, I don't think I could do this review for this movie and tiptoe around certain things. So if you do not want to be spoiled, I would highly suggest that you leave. Nothing personal. But I don't want you to say, "Oh, Torian spoiled the movie for me." This is the disclaimer. So, if you haven't seen the movie and you want to watch it, I would suggest you leave. Unless you don't want to watch it and you still want to listen to it, that's fine. If you've seen it, then of course you're going to stay to see what I have, to see my takes on it. Okay, Nika said that she said she hates spoilers, so she's leaving. So I guess she hasn't seen it yet. My Funk said there's no spoilers, we know what happened. Believe it or not, a lot of people don't know what happened. Some people probably didn't even know who Fred Hampton was before this. And you know how I know, because I'd be looking at some people's trailer reactions and stuff, and they was looking like, oh, I never heard of this guy. But see, it's because people like Fred Hampton was not taught in school. And when you think about who Fred Hampton was and what Fred Hampton did, you can see why he wasn't taught in schools. And when you think about why he was killed, why he was murdered, you'll see exactly why. Okay, so I just gave my disclaimer. You know, people wanted to leave because they didn't want to be spoiled. That's the disclaimer right there. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and get into it. So basically, the movie Judas and the Black Messiah, which is a very interesting title that they gave it. Shout out to whoever came up with the title for this movie, because that is like the perfect title for this narrative, considering who the movie is about, who the movie surrounds around. But the movie Judas and the Black Messiah is basically about the story of Fred Hampton, as we all know, who was the deputy chairman for the Chicago chapter of the Black Panther Party back in 1968. When he was basically organizing and galvanizing different groups of people together as one to basically go against the tyrannical government. And of course, you know, they had to find a way to get rid of him and take him down. They had to get rid of the head, and he was the head. And, you know, he was the one, or one of the few people, I think the Black Panther Party as a whole, were the ones that inspired the founding of COINTELPRO, or the counterintelligence program that was put in place by J. Edgar Hoover, you know, the director of the FBI, the director and founder of the FBI at that time. And as a matter of fact, that's how the movie started off. It starts off pretty much, they started off showing kind of like the ending, the very end at the beginning, with the interview of William O'Neill. I'm telling you, he just like, William O'Neill, I mean, I thought I knew about William O'Neill, but my goodness, this movie made me hate him even more. Patience Virtue says, if you from where I'm from at the Shy, you better know, you better tell them. If you from Chicago and you black, you better know this story. But William O'Neill as a person, just, I had, like I said, I had knew some stuff about him because I read about him, but this movie right here put into perspective of even more reasons not to like him. Now, Fred Hampton was 21 when he was murdered. William O'Neill, or as they called him, Bill in the movie, which of course, you know, is short for William, he was 17. So, you know, he, like William O'Neill, he was basically a car thief. He was a car thief. Like, he would go around pretending to be like a fake FBI agent, going around robbing people, you know, trying to steal their cars and everything like that, because, you know, that's just who he was. And then he gets caught and he gets brought in by the FBI. And then in order to try to, you know, to not have him be sentenced for anything, you know, with the petty crimes that he has done over the years, they give him an offer, like a bargain. They like, look, we want you to infiltrate the Black Panther Party. We want you to infiltrate the Chicago chapter of the Black Panther Party that is head up by Fred Hampton. And we want you to find some intel about this guy that we can't get to because, you know, we're white men. You know, they'll see us coming. They'll know. So we can't get in, but we can send you in. We want you to gain their trust, and we want you to work, you know, do your thing and come back and report to us, and we will reward you with whatever you want. And that was basically his mission the entire time. And of course, as time goes on and he gets more and more in, he starts to gain the trust of Fred Hampton and all the other members of the party. And then of course, the more he gets in, the more he comes back to get more money, and the more greedy he becomes, and even the more sinister he is. So to all the people out there that's listening, if you want to know why many black people do not like traitors, or we should not like traitors and everything like that, look at William O'Neill. He's like the catalyst as to why many black people don't like traitors. Like, he was the definition of a Judas. And there's a lot of Judases, I should say, roaming around the community right now as I speak. Unfortunately. Who will do anything to get out of a, like, I guess, out of a jam, out of a little mix up, even at the risk of having some of your own be killed. And of course, we all know that's how it ended, but I don't want to jump too far into that before I get into everything else. And I took notes. I took like 2 pages worth of notes. That's one thing I like about streaming platforms, is that you can take notes. See, I have my notes right here. You probably can't see them. And another page right here. And we're going to go through all of them. Hopefully I can read my own writing, because I was kind of like writing as I was watching at the same time while trying not to pause either, which probably wasn't the best I did, but we going to get through it. You said you said that there's a YouTube channel called Real Black. That's a documentary on Chairman Fred Hampton. I'm gonna go watch those, because I need to go watch some more stuff about him as well. 007 Spidey 2 says, did this movie further expose Richard Nixon, aka Tricky Dick, in this plot? His name was brought up. I do remember Richard Nixon's name being mentioned, I think, twice in the movie. I can't exactly remember for what, but it probably was in response to what you're referring to right now. But let me go ahead and get into it. But the beginning of the movie, basically, like I said, I think I actually said that, it shows William O'Neill, Lakeith Stanfield, and let me say this right now. Lakeith Stanfield is such a phenomenal actor. I think I've always said that. A lot of people say that he's kind of weird and everything like that. What I don't know, like, I can't really speak to his personal life, but when he gets into a role, he locks in. He locks in with that role. Like, he played the heck out of William O'Neill. Like, he made you not like William O'Neill, even though we don't like William O'Neill. We don't. And that's what was supposed to happen. You're not supposed to, like, feel anything for this guy, because you already know what type of person that he is. But that's basically how it starts off. It starts off in 1989 when he's giving an interview. As a matter of fact, y'all probably know what interview I'm talking about. It was for a PBS special, and it was called Eyes on the Prize 2. And he's giving that interview, and he's just basically talking. And you can tell by the nonchalant look on his face, as if it's a mixture of not caring, as well as having guilt. He feels guilty about what he did all those years ago. At that time, it was about 21 years ago, ironically 21 or 20 years ago. And also not caring so much about what he did in the role that he played in the infiltration and being an informant for the FBI for the Black Panther Party. Then they went into the COINTELPRO part, and I think that was the actor that was playing J. Edgar Hoover, because he looked just like him. They go in there and they start talking about COINTELPRO, the counterintelligence program, and how they have to find a way to infiltrate. You know, J. Edgar Hoover actually said that the Black Panther Party was a bigger threat than the Chinese and the Russians. We're going to get to that, everyday peoples. I mean, many people already knew that part, but we're going to get to that. That's going to be way more toward the end of the review, though. But yeah, he actually compared the Black Panther Party. Well, he didn't compare. He said that the Black Panther Party was worse than the Chinese and the Russians as far as threats to the American people. And that goes into something that we see today, where you see a lot of palm-colored people will make these vast, irregular comparisons that don't make any sense when it comes to black people and other groups of people when it comes to, when they, I guess you can say, deemed as domestic terrorists. And you'll actually hear again in my review, that comes up again, but they get compared to another group. I think y'all can probably figure out what group I'm talking about. And I'm not surprised they said that either, because that's like the same stuff they said back then. It's the same stuff that they talk about now. One thing I also liked about this movie is that they talked about the different programs that the Black Panther Party were engaged in. Like they definitely hit on and make sure to touch on the free breakfast program that they have for the kids. You know that free breakfast program that they have for kids in school nowadays? That came from them. That came from them. But yeah, the free breakfast program that came from the Black Panthers, and how it's implemented in schools now. That's a program they started, but they'll never tell you that. And I like that not only did they talk about that, they had a few scenes in there where they actually showed the kids coming down there and getting free food, and the Black Panthers and the members of the Panthers at that time were actually feeding them, because you rarely see that in movies that features the Panthers. So I'm glad that they put that in there, because that's a program that I'm so glad that they had at one time. All right, what else? Let me go to my next point. The first time we really see William O'Neill on screen, as far as outside of them showing him being interviewed at the end of the movie and then they come back, is when he goes around masquerading himself as an FBI agent. He goes into this bar and he walks in there with the trench coat on and the fedora hat, saying that these people are, wanted, and he's going to arrest them and everything like that. But then they notice that this guy's a fake cop, and they chase after him just so he could steal the car. Like I said, he was a common car thief. And then that's when, after all of that happens, that's how he gets pulled in by the FBI, and they start making that deal with him and saying, look, if you don't do this, then you're going to have this amount of jail time for this crime. And that's when he decides to make a deal with this cop, this FBI agent named Roy Mitchell, to go ahead and infiltrate the Black Panthers. Don't worry, I'm just looking at the comments to see what people are saying. Shout out to Jordan Black for posting the Cash App. But Jordan, a little editing to the Cash App. The Cash App is Torian Rain, not just Torian. So add the rain in there as well. All right, so let me get to my next program. Oh, I actually jumped ahead. I talked about the free food program already. The next part is now William O'Neill has finally gotten into the party. Because he's almost like a finesser at this point. He's like a finesser, and he does everything that he can. He's fine now. He's into the party. He's woven himself into the party to try, getting comfortable, with Fred Hampton and all the other people that are there and whatnot. I said something just tells me he's gonna blow his cover, or he's gonna do something stupid, because that's the type of person he is. And remember, William O'Neill at the time was 17. He was still a teenager. He wasn't a grown man. As a matter of fact, when is a scene. They're in a classroom and Fred Hampton is talking. He's talking to the people, and the whole time he's talking, William O'Neill is sitting there beside this girl, and he's just like kind of trying to flirt with her right in the middle of Fred Hampton talking, which would be seen as disrespect. And she's not paying him any mind. She's kind of like looking away from him and rolling her eyes, and like, if this dude don't stop talking to me, I'm not paying attention to him. That's not why I'm here. Then in the middle of Fred Hampton talking, he comes down and he just kind of sits near William O'Neill, and he just basically asks him, like, what's the rules or the procedures when it comes to, talking to the women in the party in that way. He couldn't really say it. He kind of gave this standoffish look like, I'm not here for that, I'm here for this. I'm like, dude, you're supposed to be infiltrating the party, and you're about to blow your cover already, and you haven't even been in a week. But that's the kind of person that he was. Angie, you said, did you think that the movie was based more through the eyes of the traitor William O'Neill and not focusing mainly on Fred Hampton's side? Even the title of the movie showed as much. That's a good question. And you know what? It's very interesting that you say that, because you got to think. Uh, well, yes and no. Yes, on the stance that they're going to go based off of some of the things that William O'Neill said because he was still alive years later. But from what I've heard, Fred Hampton's son, Fred Hampton Jr., actually was on set every day. So he was giving, saying what it is, but it's kind of hard at the same time because when his dad was murdered, his mom was still pregnant with him. So I think they had some take from both him and his mother, because his mother is still alive. I mean, his wife is his spouse, because I don't think they were married, are still alive. Her name was Deborah Johnson. She's changed it since then now. She goes by a different name now, but her name was Deborah Johnson at the time. So I think that they go by whatever accounts that she gave and some of the accounts that his son gave. And those genes are strong too, because he looks just like his dad. I would say a mix between his dad and his mom. Like if you see the movie, they show a picture of him and his mother at the end of the movie. Yes, patience is a virtue. They did say that Lakeith Stanfield said he did need therapy after this movie. That shows you how much he dove into that role. If an actor has to come out and say that they need therapy after a role, that means that they dove into that role. They got lost in that role, and he did. Like I said, we don't like William O'Neill over here. However, Lakeith Stanfield bodied that role. He did. Like he made you not like him because of some of the stuff that he did. But I'm gonna get into that. I'm only in the beginning of the review. We're gonna get into all of that. All right, let's see here. Now this part right here that I'm about to talk about was when Fred Hampton and some of the other members of the party went over to this other crew called the Crowns. They call themselves the Crowns, and they were another group that was in Chicago that were basically fighting for the same thing. But Fred Hampton knew that separate we could do our own thing. But if we were together as one, we could accomplish so much more. So he basically went over to this group called the Crowns to basically talk to them and saying, like, look, we need to unite with each other because, in order to take down our enemy, who's pretty much our enemies together, we're going to need the strength in numbers. But of course, the leader was not, he was more resistant to that because they really wasn't messing with the Panthers like that. Like they kind of had beef with each other. Like they, it was a lot of friction there, especially when it was a part where the leader of the Crowns had showed this pamphlet that was left on the yard and showing the Panthers were saying this and saying that about them, even though I think that was planted there by William O'Neill. I think that was put there, because, that's what he's there for as an informant, because they kind of talked about it in the office with the agent. Based on the terminology and the wordings that they used, to cause a friction between the two. And that was basically the goal, was to, create a divide and to avoid what was happening from actually happening. Which is why J. Edgar Hoover said that they're more dangerous than the Chinese and the Russians and the Italian mob and all those other groups of people that were big at that time that were actual threats. Let's see here. In that same scene, this is the part where William O'Neill actually did something to gain the trust of Fred Hampton, because when Fred was coming to meet with them, one of the members of that group had put some pool balls in a jacket as if he was going to use that to swing on Fred Hampton. And then all of a sudden, William O'Neill came out of nowhere with a pool stick, like he was about to swing on him to defend him. And it was in that moment right there where William O'Neill had gained the trust. Where Fred Hampton had gained the trust of William O'Neill, and then they had gave him a nickname. They said, "We're gonna call you Wild Bill," because he's like, you came at them with a pool stick, and they had guns. Like they could have easily took you out. They could have took all of us out, but you came at them with a pool stick and got them to back down. And he said, "We're gonna call you Wild Bill." Thank you, Solo. He said the feds wrote it and Bill planted. That's what I thought. Let's see here. Okay, here's another false equivalence. So this scene I'm about to talk about right here is where William O'Neill and what's his name, Ron Mitchell, who was the white agent that William O'Neill made the deal with, or he made the deal with him. They go meet at this central location at this nice, I guess you can say, bougie restaurant, and he's talking to him. And here's where the other false equivalency comes in, and this is one that we've heard for so long and still hear to this day. But now they don't compare it with the Panthers; they compare it with BLM. Ron Mitchell had told William O'Neill that the Klan and the Black Panther Party literally are one and the same. He said, in so many words, he said that the Black Panther Party and the Klan are literally like the same exact organization. It's just that the faces look different. How many times have we heard that comparison? Several times. Because they always need a false equivalence to something with them. Even though we know that couldn't be further from the truth. Don't worry, y'all. It's a pause because I'm just looking at the chat to see what y'all are saying. All right, let me continue. So the next part is where William O'Neill, his cover almost gets blown because one of the women in the party and it was another guy in the party. Basically, what happened was when they was meeting with the Crowns, one of the guys had recognized William O'Neill from the beginning of the movie when they were trying to rob him, or well, when he was with a crew of people he was trying to rob, and he was like, "That's the guy right there that tried to rob so and so that we went after the other day, or a week or so ago, whenever that time happened." And they were looking at him like, "What? Huh? Like, what is he talking about?" They was like, "That's the guy that was trying to be the fake cop and everything like that." I was like, "Uh-oh, his cover about to be blown." So basically, what happens is one of the women in the party, she basically asks William O'Neill. She said, "You got your piece on you?" And he was like, "Yeah, it's in the glove box." She pulls it out and she points it at him, and she says, like, to the effect of, "Okay, like pull over here." They said, "Okay, if you are who you say you are, I want you to hotwire this car to see, if he was who he claimed to be." And so basically, I said, "You better put your little skills to the test and prove it, because they'll blow your brains out right here in this car right now." Because you gotta understand, they know that they're being watched. They know that they're being watched, and they can't take any they can't afford to be caught. Well, not so much caught, but caught from the inside. And they don't know who to trust. And you could tell he was nervous as hell when he had to hotwire that car, because the woman right next to him holding the gun. He had a guy in the back. They could have took him out smooth out right then and there. I said, "You better do it." I said, "Your cover about to be blown." But he was able to do it. He was able to hotwire the car and everything like that. So he was extremely lucky in that aspect. But like I said, it goes to the fact that he at times was reckless. It wasn't until like halfway through the movie where he started to do things and he did not leave so much of a crumb trail of things that he was doing wrong. And the more it seemed like the more he started to slip up, the more he wanted from the FBI. It's almost like the more he got, the more improved he became as an agent. So although said they had multiple snitches, but O'Neill was the ultimate Judas, right? And I'm gonna talk about that. It's interesting you said that, because that's actually going to be a point that happened in the movie. Let's see here. The interesting part right here was when Fred Hampton, the Black Panthers, William O'Neill was with them. They went to a Confederate meeting, where people wave that Confederate flag. They went to a Confederate meeting. They just walked in. I think it was only like 5 of them or something like that. And when they got spotted walking in there, the guy who was over it basically was saying how he just said his name, Fred Hampton. See, Fred Hampton became so popular that all groups of people knew who he was. But the reason why Fred Hampton was there is because of the same reason he went and met with the Crowns, because he was trying to galvanize the people together, no matter what their beliefs were, as one, and to go against the people that they felt oppressed them, because he knew that every white person wasn't out to really so much out to get him or something like that. He said he knew what white people were out to get him, but he knew they weren't the ones. He knew which ones, but he knew those weren't it. Basically, he was kicking off the Rainbow Coalition. If you heard that terminology, Rainbow Coalition, because they mentioned it in the movie, that's what he was kicking off. So he had other groups of black people, he had white people, then he had Hispanic and Latinos and Mexicans and all types of stuff of people coming together as one. That is what made Fred Hampton a threat. East Side Do or Die said one of the jokes was for every one real. Oh, I couldn't even read it. The message was deleted. He said one of the jokes were for every one real Black Panther, there were about 5 FBI informants. You're probably right with that one. You're probably right. But basically, like I said, he was trying to galvanize all of them together as one to go against who the true enemy was. And the people at the head didn't like that. And that's what made, like I said, Fred Hampton a threat. Because he was very powerful with his words. He was able to get people to come together and unite. And they didn't want that. They wanted the division. Truth be told, that's what they wanted. They wanted the division. If y'all haven't done so already, make sure y'all hit the like button. It says I only have 42 likes and 33 people right now who are watching. Let's see, what else do I have going on here? So they had to do what they could. They saw that Fred Hampton was uniting all the people. They said, we got to do something about this. We have to stop him. And what do? They arrest him. For what, you might ask? For allegedly stealing ice cream. That's what they arrest him for. Allegedly, he stole some ice cream and he gets arrested for that. And he ends up staying in jail, I think, for 5 months for that. I think he did like 5 months for that. Because, see, they needed him not to be on the outside because they knew that they would not run the play the way Fred Hampton could. And truth be told, they couldn't. They needed him. They needed him in more ways than one. Because they were saying how, like, when he was in jail, how things were being ran on the outside. It wasn't being ran properly. They said they saw a decrease in people joining and people coming around and everything like that. So they knew that they needed him there in order to get things done. But without him there, it wasn't a lot that could happen. Because they knew he ran a tight ship. Unfortunately. But yeah, that's what they got him for allegedly stealing ice cream. Ice cream. But see, that's the thing. They said get him on any little thing. And if you can get him on any little thing, I don't care what it is, get him. And they did. Right, 007 Spidey over allegations of dessert stealing. When I saw that, I said, are you serious? But then, like I said, that kind of plays in how it is today. But when they want their man, they will do anything to get him. And that's what they did with him. He spent 5 months in jail for that. Mind you, at the time, the woman that he was dating, remember who I was talking about, Deborah Johnson, that's when she got pregnant She got pregnant before Fred Hampton had went in. So she was out on the outside pregnant, and the next time he saw her, she was already like, starting to show. Because 5 months had passed. So of course she's gonna show. Rail circle. Yeah, you said Lakeith acting was amazing. It was. It definitely was. It really was. Alright, so let's see what's the next part. At this, it was okay. This is the part that I forgot who said it in the chat when talking about multiple informants. This part right here took me on like a mind spin. This next part right here. So someone was saying how that there were multiple informants in the party, and there were, because they talked about this other informant. I think they said his name was Alex Bagley or George Sams. I forgot which one was the informant and which one wasn't. Basically, they when this was all still when Fred Hampton was still in jail. William O'Neill now is like the security something. He's over something with security. He now has a position. He has a title. He's not just there. He has a title now. He goes and he meets with some people. Then all of a sudden you see this one guy right here sitting on the steps smoking a cigarette, and he's talking, and he's like, and I'm thinking, oh, is he a new member or something like that? Because I was like, we didn't see him at all in the movie up until this point. And he just basically talks about how they dealt with the traitor or the traitors that come into the party, and how they found out the person was an informant, and how they boiled hot water, threw it onto this person. Then they threw their body into the bottom of the water, and that's when they recovered him. And they said when they recovered him, his skin was falling off and everything like that. And I'm like, dang, I didn't know they did all of that. And I was like, wait a minute, something seems off about this story, because I've never heard stories of the party of the Black Panthers doing anything that heinous, even to traitors. I've never heard them doing something like that. And I'm like, okay, I'll go along with it for now. And then all of a sudden you see William O'Neill, he goes and meets with Ron Mitchell and says he doesn't want to do it anymore because he's fearful of being, how that could happen to him if he gets discovered as being an informant and everything like that. But then, Ron Mitchell ends up going to talk with one of the other FBI agents, and they basically say how the person who told that story about the boiling hot water was an informant as well. So basically what they did was they had other informants that come from other places to infiltrate as well. Like they said that William O'Neill wasn't the only infiltrator, but there were others that would come in, do certain things to kind of cause discourse. And then what they'll do is they'll say that this person was a fugitive, and then they'll attack. And when they do, they can get them on harboring a fugitive. So they had this thing intertwined. Like they had this thing all worked out. So they could build a case around the Panthers. Tatiana said George Sands was the informant. Thank you for correcting me. You and Solo Dolo. Because I should have rewinded that part to make sure I got the names correct. But thank you for correcting me. That part right there blew my mind right there. I'm like, they had that thing strategically planned out. I mean, talk about determination. And I'm like, so the guy that was sitting on the steps, he was in on it. He was an informant. I said, this is exactly why we cannot stop putting our foot on the necks of these Sambos and these turncoats. Because it's a lot, like I said, it's a lot of Judases running and scattered around out here. But that part right there was like a mind-blown moment for me watching the movie. But thanks to Solo Dolo and Tatiana for correcting me on that. All right, let me go to the next page. I'm already now on the second page of my notes. So we moving right along. Uh oh, so now we get to a little bit of action. So basically, what happens is this one member of the party. Remember how I was telling you about how William O'Neill almost got busted, and it was him and a woman and a man in a car. The man in the car, he was walking down the street and he saw that the cops went to the store in their neighborhood to do a shakedown of some other black men inside of a store. That guy goes in there, he talks his crap to the cops and everything. They talk back. He pulls out his gun and he starts popping off at them and they shoot him. He doesn't die, but he ends up in the hospital. That moment right there gives the cops the leeway to get into the neighborhoods. So what they do is they go to where the Black Panther headquarters is at, where their headquarters is at, to basically fish out the people that's inside and everything like that. Once they, because also Deborah Johnson is there, but they were like, look, she can defend herself. But she was like, the woman was like, no, we don't need you here because you're pregnant. Well, the woman figures out that she's pregnant. At this point, Deborah Johnson is pregnant, but she's not showing, or she's wearing clothing to cover her belly. And she's like, look, you're pregnant. We can't have you out here, doing all of this and everything like that. We have to give you to a safe spot. Then this is where the action kicks in. So there's a big shootout that happens between the Panthers and the cops. The cops on the outside on the ground. The Panthers are upstairs on the second floor of the headquarters, just shooting. It's like one big shootout that happens. It lasts about 5 minutes film time. And, they end up, the Panthers end up surrendering because one of them gets shot. He didn't die, but he gets shot. They tie the jacket around the gun to wave the flag of surrender, and then they come out. They detain them, throw them back into the paddy wagon, and then that's when one of the cops goes and gets a bucket or a can of gasoline, douses that place with the gasoline, and then they blow up the front part of it. They don't completely destroy the headquarters, but they destroy the main center, the main entryway of the place, to the point where it's nothing there. It's just black. It's just dust and all type of stuff. Like they just destroyed that main part of it right there. And that was kind of a hard scene to watch because it's like, dang, everything that you worked so hard for to build a headquarters for yourself, it gets destroyed, in this fashion. Let's see here. Okay, the next part is more of a line from the movie. You have Ron Mitchell meeting with, I'm guessing that has to be J. Edgar Hoover. It has to be. Meeting with J. Edgar Hoover, and J. Edgar Hoover is just asking him these line of questions, and he starts asking him about his kids. He just asks him how his son's is doing, then he asks about how his daughter is doing. But when he asks how his daughter is doing, he asks this question. I made sure to write this line down. He said, "What will you do when your daughter brings home a Negro male?" That was the line, and in verbatim. What will you do if your daughter brought home a Negro male? And let me tell you, I was curious to see what Ron Mitchell was going to say. I was like really curious of what his response was going to be. He kind of like gave this look like he kind of tap dance. He tap danced around it and everything like that. He didn't want to say what he really wanted to say because I have a feeling Ron Mitchell probably wouldn't even care. Or maybe he didn't answer it that way because he was trying to protect himself. He knew that he was being goaded into an answer he didn't want to give. And basically, J. Edgar Hoover was trying to see where his allegiance lies, because he knows that if he said a certain thing, he would probably kick Ron Mitchell off the case. So I think Ron Mitchell just gave this answer to appease J. Edgar Hoover. Because he also said that because he saw how Fred Hampton is as a black man. Even J. Edgar Hoover probably saw that he was the pinnacle of what a black man should be. And a lot of them at that time feared that their daughters would bring home a black man that was just like Fred Hampton. And in other words, they were very fearful of a strong, masculine, alpha black man. And you fast forward to today, and you see what kind of black men are flushed out into society or flushed out through the media. He said J. Edgar Hoover was obsessed with, oh yeah, he definitely was obsessed with black men. He had a lot of issues with black men, but there was always this rumor that he was mixed, and I'm almost starting to believe that that rumor was true, because if you look at old pictures of J. Edna, as I called him, Hoover, he kind of looks like he had a black parent or someone in that ancestry was black. Like, look at some old pictures of J. Edgar Hoover from back in the day, like when he was younger, like back when he even before he started the FBI. Like, look at him when he was younger, like in his 20s, and you'll see what I mean. So the next part is Fred Hampton. He gets released from jail after spending time in jail. He's released from jail finally, and he comes back home, and he finds that the first place he wants to go is the headquarters, because he had heard the headquarters had got bombed, so to speak, and he just wanted to go there and see what it looked like, not knowing that while the whole time he was in there, from the time he got bombed, the community had came together and helped rebuild what was destroyed. Like, they completely fixed the office and everything like that. It looked brand new. He was going out there to go to the office to expect to see it looked, to expect it to see look have it look like it was still in rubbles and still in the rubble. That's what he expected it to still look like, not realizing that it was completely fixed. They completely redid it and had it looking brand new. So he was very happy about that. And then they had, like, I guess you can say, a grand reopening where they had music and people and food and talking to people in the community. And then every high moment in a movie has to have a moment that brings it down. So what happens next is you have a phone call come through. Someone gets they get a phone call at the headquarters from the hospital. Now, remember how I was telling you how it was a guy that shot at the cops in that store where they were having a shakedown with the black men that were there? He was in the hospital, and they get a call from the hospital basically saying the person, your friend or whoever, whatever, he's dead. And they're like, he's dead, but he was alive just like the other day. And my immediate thought is they killed him. And I believe they did. Like, they even showed a little clip where they're carrying him down the hall on the gurney while he's kind of strapped to the bed. And you see the two cops looking back at him when he's asking them where they're going with him, and they look back with this evil smirk, and you already know what that means when you see that. So they most likely they killed him. One of the guys who's in the movie, his name was Jake. Let me tell you, at first it seemed like Jake was just there for the ride, but what he did in these next couple of scenes, y'all are gonna like the Jake character, especially after what happened in this part that I'm talking about. He was very close with this guy. Like they were friends. Like, they were like brothers. Like, they were the closest. And when he said that they were dead, that he was dead, and he had a feeling they killed him, he went out to try to find answers. So he ended up talking to this guy who worked as a janitor there. He's a black guy, worked as a janitor, and he was like, "Look, I'm trying to find answers about what happened to my friend, because they said that he died in the hospital, but I don't believe it. I need you to see if you can talk to somebody there." The black guy's like, he got on my nerves. He basically said, "And mess up my money with them white folks? No." That's basically what he told him. And when he tried to get answers off of him, Jake kind of got aggressive with him. He pushed Jake back, and a gun falls out of Jake's pocket. Well, not his pocket, but his, like, where he holds the gun, because that gun's kind of big. He couldn't fit in the pocket. And then He runs into his home, gets on the phone, and immediately calls the police. Let me pause right there because I want to see some of these comments. Jordan Black. Oh well, J. Edgar. Well, listen, it's no secret that J. Edgar Hoover used to wear a dress, and it's no secret either that he it's no secret. Let's put it like that. It isn't a secret. It's pretty much public knowledge at this point. If you watch the movie J. Edgar with Leonardo DiCaprio, there is a scene in that movie where he's standing in front of a mirror wearing a dress. And I was actually shocked that they put that in the movie when I watched it. If y'all have seen the movie J. Edgar with Leonardo DiCaprio, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But back to what I was talking about. The Jake character. He ends up having the cops come after him and everything like that because, the guy called the cops on him and they start chasing him and whatnot. Then he just basically starts firing back. Like, he killed like two cops. One he shot at a distance. The other one he shot like point blank range. He shot him. He got weak. Then he pointed the gun right at his face and blew his face off. And then after that, the cops found Jake and they shot and they killed him. Because Jake knew he wasn't going to get out of there alive. He was already injured. He had got shot. He could barely move. He was like injured. He couldn't do anything. All of that to avenge his friend. But Jake went out like a G that day. Let's see, where am I at? Right here. The next part is I like this scene that this scene right here where Fred Hampton gives this speech in front of a group of people was probably some of the best acting in the movie. I know I'm seeing people in the comment section saying about Daniel Kaluuya, and like I said, that was one of the things that was going to hinder me from actually watching the movie because of the comments that he made. But I have to be fair with this. That scene right there was very well acted. It was. I'm gonna be honest with you. I can't even sit up here and lie and say that it wasn't. It was. But that scene right there was powerful. And one thing that stuck out to me was when he was talking about how he will give his life for the revolution. And they point the camera to Deborah. She's right there in the front row, pregnant and all. She kind of gives this, like, the whole time she's like very proud of what he's saying. She's smiling, she's happy. But when he said he would give his life for the revolution, while she's rubbing her belly when she says that, I thought that was very interesting to have her rub her belly while saying that. She's thinking to herself, it's a very strong possibility that I'm going to have to raise my child, our child, without the father because he's going to die for the revolution. That scene right there was so powerful. That entire scene was very good. And then they pointed to William O'Neill yelling the words, "I am a revolutionary." And then they point the camera of who he's looking at, and it's Ron Mitchell. Ron Mitchell is standing right there in the crowd, basically spying on William O'Neill to make sure he's doing what he's supposed to be doing. And the thing is, William O'Neill played this thing so well that you couldn't tell if he was acting at this point or if he was really in it now. That's why I said that's how slick he was. It's almost like he really started to dive into this persona so well at this point. All right, let's see. The next part it has, and I like this scene here because it shared a scene with Deborah and Fred Hampton, basically, talking about because she was a poet, she liked poetry, and she was saying how that she thinks that she's going to be a bad mother and everything like that because of how the environment they're raising their child in, and she's like scared now of having a child because of what Fred Hampton said about giving his life up for the revolution. She's worried about what's going to happen with her and and her child, if he's not around. So I thought that was a very interesting scene for them to share with each other. I like the scenes that they had them together because it was like more like a calming period because it was very high intense a lot of times, but when they had them together, it was a very calming period until the very end. We'll get to that. So the next part is William O'Neill. This is where William O'Neill really starts to go off his rocker. He basically is talking to Fred Hampton and one of the other members of the party. They're together and basically saying, like William O'Neill saying, look, we got to go get them. They're about to do this. We're about to do this. We're about to do that. We got to go get them. We got to get them. We got to get them. Now he keeps saying stuff like that over and over again. And they're like, why do you keep saying it? What are you doing? Then all of a sudden, William O'Neill brings them over to his car. To the trunk of his car. He opens up the trunk of his car, and in that trunk is like a whole bunch of C4. And they slam the trunk, and they're like, they like, nigga, are you crazy? Do you know what you're trying to do? This fool was trying to bomb City Hall. Or at least get Fred Hampton to agree to the bombing of City Hall. That's what he was trying to do. But Fred Hampton was like, no, that's not what we're going to do. That's not what we're here for. Like, what are you doing? Like, what's going on? And then, they said, you got to go. You have got to go because you're doing too much. You're about to ruin everything we worked for. And then that's when, as they're walking off, William O'Neill is basically saying F you and everything like that and whatnot. And then he gets in the car, he drives away, and then all of a sudden he reaches down into his shirt and he starts pulling out the wire pack. He was basically wired. All he had to do was get Fred Hampton to agree to do it. They didn't have to do it. They probably weren't going to do it. He just had to get Fred Hampton in a recording saying and agreeing to bombing City Hall. But he was mad because Fred Hampton did not agree to do it. Right, Jordan Black? Listen, man, I tell you, William O'Neill is one of the worst people ever. And I keep telling people, like, when I mentioned William O'Neill's name, people didn't know who he was. But I said, hopefully after watching this movie, y'all realize who he is. I didn't know much about him until I watched this movie, but I knew who William O'Neill was. This movie just takes us into a more deeper point into who he was. Let's see, where am I at now? They end up denying Fred Hampton's appeal to basically not have to go back to jail. And they're sitting there thinking, oh, this is a great thing and whatnot and everything like that. Then they call J. Edgar Hoover. And he's like, good news, Mr. Director. They was like, what's that? Fred Hampton's appeal has been denied. He's going back to jail. And J. Edgar Hoover is on the other end of the phone like, okay. And they're looking like, okay, like, why are you so nonchalant about it? Like, you should be excited. Isn't this what you wanted? He said, at first, this is what I wanted, but not anymore. And they was like, why is that? Because Huey P. Newton became an overnight celebrity after being locked up. Bobby Seale became an author. He wrote a book. He says, are you seeing a pattern here? If sending him to jail is the ultimate goal, then why are the others getting these accolades after being in jail? He says putting them in jail is only going to give them more attention and more star power and give more people ways to come in. At this point, when he's saying all of this, I already know what the next steps they want to take when it comes to Fred Hampton. See, the other ones, they were a threat in so many ways, but not like him. Because, like I said, Fred Hampton was able to galvanize the people, various groups of people that they wanted to keep separate. Having them come together was bad for business. That's why they had to get rid of him. They said jail is not going to work. He'll just become more famous. So we have to take another step. And it's probably one he had in his mind for a while, but he wanted to see if everything would play out another way before he went to the extreme. And then that scene ends. And then they go to Back to, I don't know why I kept calling this man Ron Mitchell. His name was Roy Mitchell. Roy Mitchell meets with William O'Neal again at this bougie restaurant. He talks to him and everything like that, and he just basically gives William O'Neal this pad and this pen. And he says, what do you want me to do with that? He says, I want you to draw me out a blueprint of Fred Hampton's apartment. So y'all know what's about to happen. We know what's about to pop off. He said, I want you to draw a blueprint of Fred Hampton's apartment. I think I have to break down why he wanted him to draw a blueprint of his apartment. But sorry about that. Um where was I at? Okay, back to the blueprint. Yeah, they wanted him to draw a blueprint of the apartment so they could find a way to get into the apartment and know how to go and where to go. And William O'Neal started to figure this out. It was at this moment where William O'Neal realized that he knew he messed up. He didn't think it was going to come to this. He didn't think that it was going to come to this. But it did. And there's no way he could get out of it. Like at this point, he was so wrapped in, he was so tight in. It was like he was in his own entanglement. He couldn't get out of it. His biggest doing also became his biggest undoing. Unfortunately for him, he couldn't undo what he did. And he was like, at first he was kind of resistant to it. He didn't want to do it. But then Roy Mitchell reminded him and saying like, look, you still have this bid that's waiting on you if you don't do what you're told. And he still did it anyway. See, this is the selfishness of William O'Neal. He looked out only for himself even after he even gained the trust of these people. So he could get away. Even though he knew what was about to happen. So, from there, we go back to the apartment. We're at the apartment now. This scene right here is the night before or the night of what happened. But before that happened. They're at the apartment. Fred Hampton and Deborah and all their friends and everything is there. Right now, they're planning an escape for Deborah and Fred. They're trying to get them out of Chicago, really out of the country. They're trying to get them out of the country because they're saying where some people went and everything like that, like send them there, where they'll be protected and they won't come after them. And Fred is like, look, that's all fine and good, but we're trying to build this clinic. Even at the end of the day, when Fred Hampton knew his life was in danger, he was still for his people. And he said, I saw what it was like for me when I was in jail. Imagine what it's like for all of us if I'm overseas somewhere hiding. It'll fall apart. And he was like, look, I can't leave. He said, how long? The bid is not going to be that long anyway. Let me just go do my time. And when I come out, we're going to build this clinic and we're going to name it after Jake. And he says that when I come home to Deborah, we're going to have more kids. And I'm just sitting here saying to myself, if only they knew how this was going to end. Because it's not going to end the way that he wants it. It didn't end the way any one of us wanted to. So, they talk and everything like that. And he pretty much turns down the offer to leave. So they end up staying. And they're talking and everything like that. And this is the moment where William O'Neal is really conflicted. Like he really is at his breaking point. and he's going over there talking to Deborah and Fred, and he's like shaking like a leaf, and has tears in his eyes and everything, voice cracking, and they're looking at him like, "Are you okay? Like, what's wrong?" and everything like that. It looks like he wanted to tell them what was about to happen, but he didn't do it. And then he turns around and he leaves out of the apartment, gets in his car, and drives away. Then the scene cuts and it comes back in, and you see all the other people like still inside of the house. They're sleeping at this point. Y'all already know what part of the movie I'm in at this point. They're asleep. Then all of a sudden, one of the guys in the house wakes up because he hears a noise downstairs. Then he hears footsteps coming up the stairs. He hears voices at the door. He sees the shadows at the bottom of the opening of the door. He tells the other guys to wake up. They wake up. One of them gets a gun. He stands like he's about to fire. But before he could get one shot off, boom, a shot comes through the door and takes him out. Then all of a sudden, pop, 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 pop. All you hear is gun rattling all over the place. And then in the next room, that's where Fred Hampton and Deborah are at. And Deborah's on top of him, and she's shaking him, saying, "Chairman, wake up, Chairman, wake up." At this point, he's already shot. He's shot, but he's not dead. So they keep on shooting. They keep on firing. They pull the others out who are still alive. It was like 6 or 7 of them in there. Deborah's like the last one they pull out. Mind you, she's pregnant and all. And one of the parts that sent chills was when they pulled her out. She's not shot or anything. They pulled her out, and they see she's pregnant. One of the guys, the cops, points his gun at her belly. As if he was going to shoot her while she's pregnant. But he didn't do it. Then they go into the room where Fred Hampton was laying at. And they said, "Hey boys, look like this one is still alive." Pop, pop. 2 more shots. Now he's dead. And it's crazy because when they don't show them shoot him in point blank range, they have the camera on Deborah's face. Like, imagine you are there sleeping with your spouse, the father of your child, and this happens, and you have to hear your spouse get killed like that. She still has to live with that to this day. To this day, she still has to live with what happened that night. And then that scene ends. The next scene comes in where William O'Neill meets up with Roy Mitchell again. And I think this is for the last time when they meet. They go, meet at that restaurant again. And it's at this point where this is one of the few times when William O'Neill is not excited about anything. He's kind of conflicted and everything like that. But who cares? He's like one of the main reasons why this thing happened. He talks to Roy Mitchell. Roy Mitchell gives him an envelope. The envelope has money and a key in it. I'm like, what's the key for? Do you know that the reward that William O'Neill got for successfully infiltrating the Chicago chapter of the Black Panther Party, thus bringing down the entire party and its leader? Well, not the whole party, but its leader. His reward was a gas station. William O'Neill got a gas station. That was his reward for being a traitor, for being a Judas, for being a turncoat, for being an informant. A gas station. That's what he got. And then after that scene right there, the movie cuts off, and then they start showing like clips, like actual clips and little timeline pieces. They said that William O'Neill remained an informant for the FBI well into the early 70s. And he had racked up in what would today be $200,000 in today's money. I don't know how much that would have been back then, but what would have been $200,000 today is how much he racked up being an informant for the FBI back then until he left the party. Then it fast forwards to 1989 again, where he gives that interview. This time it's not showing Lakeith Stanfield in that role playing it. They actually showed the real clip of William O'Neill giving that interview for Eyes on the Prize 2 that aired on PBS back in 1990. And what he said made me want to jump through the screen and just rearrange his face like a Picasso painting. Because what he said, I can't exactly remember his words, but he was basically saying some things on the lines of, you know, he excuse me. He felt he didn't do anything wrong. He felt guilty, but he felt like he wasn't. It's like he was doing a lot of double speak. A lot of it. Like they was asking him, like, if your son was to ask you like what type of person you are or anything like that, what would you tell him? And he just kind of danced around it and whatnot. They said that, and then after that they cut the clip, and then it shows the part where they said on the day that it aired, it was the same day that William O'Neill had went out into oncoming traffic and got hit by a car and committed suicide. But someone I think in the chat said that he tried to do it more than once. See, the guilt caught up with him, and he couldn't deal with those demons anymore. All those years later, he was still dealing with that. Well, I don't feel bad for William O'Neill, and whatever hell he's resting in, I hope it's burning even more. Then they show some more stuff. They said that Deborah Johnson, she of course gave birth to her son Fred Hampton Jr. They said she remained active with the party until like 1978 when the party kind of decimated and kind of disbanded. But they said today her and her son still do some organizations related to the party still today. And that was pretty much it. That was pretty much the whole movie. They also showed a clip of the actual real Fred Hampton giving his "I Am a Revolutionary" speech as well. But that was pretty much it. That was pretty much the movie right there. You're right, Jordan. The guilt devoured him. Hey, what's going on, K. Nicole? Nightfall, you said too peaceful of an end. What do you mean too peaceful of an end? If they ended it any other way, the story wouldn't be I don't see, well, they take bits and pieces. Some of it can be over dramatized, But what do you mean when you say it was too peaceful of an end? You're right, Tatiana. He wasn't loyal to the party. He was loyal to himself. William O'Neill was out for himself. He was out for self. And that's how a lot of these Judases around here, like these Sambos and people like that, they're just like him. They're out for self. Fred Hampton was for the people. Notice when they said when they tried to get him to leave, he didn't want to leave. He says there's work still to be done. One thing that I did have an issue though with the movie is they didn't do a good job specifying that William O'Neill was 17. Like they don't really specify that he was a teenager. Yes, we know Lakeith Stanfield is playing. Lakeith Stanfield is in his 30s, but they don't specify that William O'Neill was a teenager. Maybe because they was like, well, then why didn't they get someone, a teenager, to play him? Same thing with Fred Hampton. They don't really specify that he was 21, even though we know he was 21. Well, those who knew of him. You said it was you said too quick of a demise. You mean as far as Fred Hampton? I mean, we already knew it was going to happen. It's not like this movie, like it wasn't like the story wasn't true. It's not like it was a fictional story. Oh, you talking? Oh, you talking about William O'Neill? Oh, you talking about him going into traffic? Oh, okay. Oh, you wanted him to go out slower? Okay, now I get you. I didn't at first. I didn't know who you was talking about. I didn't know if he was talking about Fred Hampton or William O'Neill. But to be honest, it was a slow burn because for him to do something like that, the guilt was eating at him. He was already decaying just on that alone. It's just that now, physically, he's gone. And the fact is, he had to live with that guilt for like 2 decades. He had to live with that guilt since the 60s. The minute that they went up in there and killed Fred Hampton the way that they did, he had to live with that every single day. And in 1990, the guilt got him. Jalil 1814, he said all that for a gas station that probably got shot up in the end. I don't know if his gas station got shot up, but yeah, he got a gas station in out of the deal. He did all of that and got a gas station. But all in all, I actually did enjoy the movie more than I thought I would. Like I said, it exceeded my expectations considering the circumstances. Of course, I only hit on like the key points. There's some other stuff in there that I didn't talk about, but I think I touched on a lot of the key elements and the key points. Just in case y'all want to go ahead and watch it if you haven't watched it already. Lala Papa said, I honestly do believe that only a handful of snitches that are remaining have tried cashing in on being a snitch. Of course. Of course. But see, the thing is, what made William O'Neill infamous is because he was able to help bring down a leader that was the leader of an entire movement. He was actually successful in doing that, which at one point was not doable, so to speak, especially since Fred Hampton had a lot of influence at such a young age. You right, Angie. He said he went on PBS special to make his confession before he killed himself. Yeah, he did the same day. The same day that Eyes on the Prize 2 aired on PBS, he killed himself. Well, the same day. Like, after it aired, that's the when it happened. And like I said, even when he was sat up there and did that interview, he still felt like he did nothing wrong. But that's how he was a textbook narcissist, if anything. And that's how many of them are. They feel like they do nothing wrong. Everything is pretty much about them. Now, he was for self. He wasn't about the people. He was out looking for numero uno. I want to see what else y'all talking about. You said is part one of the special still available? I'm not sure. You're gonna have to go and look up and see if it is, because I haven't watched it. I'm gonna be honest with you. I haven't watched it. And they said the best way you want to bring down a movement is you get people in there that looks like you to do it. And as you can see, with this situation here, that happened. Now, you know what I would like to see a movie on? I know they have documentaries on it, but I want to see a movie about Move, 1985. I want to see that. I want to see a movie about move. Another Judas is involved with that too, because wasn't that the mayor of Philadelphia at the time, and he was a black man, and he ordered them, he approved of them dropping that duffel bag of C4. I would like to see that happen, if possible. Nightfall just said, "Let the code be the leader." Thing is, a lot of people aren't on code, unfortunately, for that too. Some don't even know what it means. Well, okay. I'm about to actually get off of here. I just wanted to come on here and talk about this movie, give my review, give my take on it. I think I pretty much hit on all the points that I'm gonna talk about with the movie. Shout out to everybody who came through to watch on the live stream on this channel. Like I said yesterday, if you weren't here, this will be the official live stream channel for me. When I'm able to upload on my main channel again, that'll be just for pre-recorded videos. I will be back on here tomorrow, because I wasn't even supposed to go live today, but I wanted to, for the sake of the review for this movie, because I was actually going to wait until later on in the week to do it, but I said let me go ahead and knock it out right now. But I will be back on here tomorrow to do the stream that I was supposed to do yesterday, but unfortunately didn't do because I had to explain what was going on with my main channel. But we'll be doing that stream tomorrow. And you'll see it. It'll be posted up here like as a preview for tomorrow. Just make sure y'all have your reminders set and come back on through. It's going to be treated as, how I do the Friday live streams. It's going to be treated as like that. But with that being said, y'all enjoy the rest of your Saturday, and I will talk to you